Welcome back to another lesson with me, Mr. B. Today we're going to be learning about two related topics, cultural studies and the critical race lens. The main definition of cultural studies from a very short introduction to literary theory with Jonathan Culler is that cultural studies is driven by the tension between the desire to recover popular culture as the expression of the people or give voice to the culture of marginalized groups, and the study of mass culture as an ideological imposition and oppressive ideological formation. Let's take a look at these bolded phrases. So, recover popular culture. The popular culture that this is pointing at would be the dominant or master narrative. The next part of this definition looks at how the desire to recover popular culture as the expression of the people or to give voice to the culture of marginalized groups. This is saying that cultural studies intends to highlight and give voice to oppressed or marginalized people. And look at how the dominant culture, again, like the master narrative, silences or suppresses certain narratives, like the counter narrative. And this silencing or suppressive culture is the oppressive ideological formation. So if cultural studies looks at the tension and asks, how far we are manipulated by cultural forms, and how far or in what ways are we able to use them for other purposes, exercising agency. So this is really getting at the idea of how can we take that silencing and suppressive or oppressive ideological imposition, how do we take that form of oppression, analyze how we've been manipulated by the dominant culture, and use it for another purpose, to promote the counter narrative, to shed light on the truth that we're not seeing. So this notion of exercising agency, what is agency? In sociology, is the idea of the individual's capacity to act independently and make their own free choices, kind of like self-determination or having self-control. You have the agency to look at those manipulated forces and determine, do I want to continue being persuaded by dominant culture, or do I want to do what's right for me? And if that's still a little bit confusing, maybe let's say along the lines of body image. Do I want to go along with social media telling me what kind of body type or how I should look? Or should I take control of what the media is feeding me and be like, nah, I don't need to look that way, because I know who I am, or I need to learn to love what I have. So by looking at how cultural forces or dominant culture is manipulating marginalized folks or even ourselves, how can we use cultural studies, or in this case, the critical race lens, to analyze that? So the critical race lens allows us to analyze the way literature, people, things are shaped by these manipulated cultural forces. This form of analysis is attuned to the problematic character of identity, the multiple ways in which it's formed, experienced, and transmitted. So in what ways does race affect the identity of a character as a cultural factor, similarly to what we may have learned with Marxism or naturalism in general? How does an outside force like race affect the character or the person or whatever it is that we're analyzing? Cultural studies and the critical race lens in general, it's all-encompassing. So this isn't necessarily just about race. Cultural studies itself covers everything from Shakespeare to rap music, what is considered high and low culture, things of the past and present that are traditional, non-traditional. It covers everything, regardless of what genre or box it's been put into. So the critical race lens, like in lesson 3 with feminism, gender, and sexuality, this lens is looking at race as a social construct and how it's used to divide people. The division of groups of people, right? Looking at how these manipulating dominant forces are causing race to intersect with social class. The critical race lens allows us to look at how lighter-skinned, both white and non-white, have more power and privilege than others. We can analyze events in our own life with this lens to consider. How does race play a role in our experiences and opportunities that are available or are not available to us based upon our race? Some related questions that a reader might ask when looking through the critical race lens. What possibilities or opportunities are available for people of color in the text? What possibilities are available for white people in the story? How are people of color denied opportunities based upon their race? And or what privileges are given to white or lighter skinned people? How are people of color portrayed? How are they expected to act? How are white people portrayed? And how are they expected to act? How do white people maintain their power? And are people of color able to gain power or more control of resources? And if so, how? What ethnic groups are depicted? What traits are they assigned? I hope that brings some clarity to the connections between cultural studies and the critical race lens, and how we can use this to look at the social construction of race, stereotypes, and marginalized groups. If you haven't already, make sure to complete the reading and respond to the question assignment on Google Classroom. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.